Call this regular meeting of council for Tuesday, August 7th, 2018 to order. And I need approval of the agenda. Councilor Kirby, Councilor Scott, all in favor? Adoption of the minutes for July 3rd, 2018 regular council meeting and public hearing minutes. Councilor Casey.
Your worship, I recommend approval as presented.
Councilor McKay. All in favor? Any business arising from those minutes? And then we'll go to delegations and welcome Dr. Helm. And they got Angela Robertson. I don't.
Yeah, she couldn't be here.
Okay. Welcome to the delegation.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm actually here at the invitation of Councillor Scott, who heads the BHC Healthy Communities Committee. And Councillor Scott just asked me to do a report back to you on the active communities grant through Northern Health and the projects that were successfully completed. So I hope not to take up too much of your time. But we had a number of partners with this, obviously yourselves and the Northern Health Authority, Winamis, Museum Foundation, the Visitor Centre and the Geopark. So these were the groups that came together for this. So we submitted the application just about a year ago. It was approved for just over 13,500, and the theme of this was enhancing universal access around Tumbler Ridge. So the first component of that was the Trail Rider, which, as you know, was successfully delivered here a few months ago. I'm not going to speak about that because Councillor Scott asked me to speak about the other two, which I've got the photographs of. So we enhanced the boardwalk at the Bullmoose Marshes, and we built a ramp for the Lost Haven Cavern. So enhancing universal access to those two. So Bullmoose Marshes, I'm sure many of you have been out there. Our challenge always has been, because we're in the mountains, so many trails are up and down and you can't avoid it because there's all the elevation change. And we've always been trying to create easier options for some people as well. And Bullmoose Marshes Boardwalk was started about 15 years ago, and then we've slowly upgraded it. Tumbler Ridge actually was the winning community, if you remember, when Mayor White was still mayor, in the entire province, beating out Vancouver and any other bigger places. So we didn't only win our category for the smallest, we won overall for the number of submissions, and that netted $60,000, with which we built the boardwalks in the beginning. So here you can see Dwayne Perry very kindly made his flatbed trailer available, and we hauled all the lumber out to the trailhead. And here you can see sort of how the boardwalk looked, 36 inches wide, very nice, but there was no lip, no retaining lip. And so we were always just concerned, you know, if a wheelchair is on that, got someone that's disabled in the wheelchair, what if you go off the edge? And worst case scenario, you know, it's going to be wet and water. So we were just never really comfortable with what we created there. And so we had a number of challenges, because simply to put 4x4s or 2x4s on the outside, it would have been very easy, but we would have then converted a 36-inch wide boardwalk into 28 inches, which would be too narrow for a wheelchair. So we defeat the purpose. So the idea we had was to replace every 10th piece of decking, make it 44 inches wide, and then put the 2x4s lengthwise on top of that. So you can actually see in that photograph we've begun to do that. Every 10th one has been removed. The problem is it was 5-inch decking, and nowadays you can only buy 6-inch decking. 5-inch does not exist anymore. So we thought we were doomed. We didn't think we could do it. And along came John Holt, who's a wonderful carpenter, and he stripped all the decking down from 6 inches to 5 inches, just like that. So he's not here with us tonight, but we couldn't have done it without John and his carpentry. And then we thought we'd just have a generator and pull all the screws out with our drills. And the screws are sort of 5 or 6 years old. You can't do that, it's too late. So we had to use pry bars to get every 10th piece out, which was quite labor intensive, but those were the challenges, but we kind of got over all of them. There you can see there was a lot of this, Linda and Sharisa carrying 2x4s in. We basically did 186 meters of boardwalk, so we completed the one, the shorter of the two trails. There you can see Doug Forrester is with us this evening. I'm just so totally amazed at this man, what he's given to the community over the years. He's turning 87 soon, and he put in an 11-hour day with us. Here you can see Linda and Sharisa carrying in the 2x4s to the further end of the trail, and again you can see what it looked like with very nice but no lip, no railing. So it's time for lunch at one point, which was good. Dwayne Perry came back, and then there you can see how we're removing every 10th piece, and now we're beginning to get the thing looking better with the 2x4s and a lip. Doug and Sharisa putting in hard labor, and essentially we did it from both ends, and we met in the middle, and this, well, it's the last screw, not the last spike, but we sort of thought it was similar to the CPR building the railway. This was the last one. And then if you know the trail, the Ora Trail, it ends at a viewing platform, so we ended up there and enhanced that a bit as well, raised the platform a little bit. And yeah, so we had a team of 8, 7 on the day plus John Holt. Total number of volunteer hours is well over 100. And that was the Bullmoose Marshes project. Afterwards, we're just sort of walking back now. Doug is having some help there at the end of 11 hours. We're actually pretty played out, but it was a wonderful, fulfilling project. And there you can see, walking back towards the vehicles, you can see what it looks like now. So quite a significant change there, and still 36 inches wide, but it's got a railing. So that's the one project. The second project, we had a bigger team. We had 15 the very next day, and again over 100 volunteer hours. And this was at the ski cabin, the Lost Haven ski cabin, and that's John Holt there. And this one we actually combined 2 projects because we also had funding from the Tumbler Ridge Community Forest for other enhancements to the cabin area. So here we're brushing, and this was the dedicated snowshoe trail which the Community Forest supported last year, and this was the completion of that project. So we now have not just trails to the cabin for skiers, but dedicated trail for snowshoers. And just within this last winter, it got very, very heavy snowshoe use, which is very encouraging to see. And we took out a bunch of deadfall as well. That's Thomas Clark's dad, was just an absolute trooper, chopping the deadfall. That's Thomas's sister, stocking our woodshed with what we chopped up. Didn't feel like taking a splitter, said do it the old-fashioned way, do it by hand. And then the Community Forest also provided enough funds that we could get a stain and restain the cabin, and we had some volunteers. That's Linda there, but another lady came out from Dawson Creek. She's a nurse there, came out to help us for the day in staining the cabin. Thomas was there with his 3 kids. Michael helped quite a bit. He loves painting, so that was a good family thing. But as regards the funding from Northern Health, the main thing was the universal access, which was to create a ramp to provide wheelchair access into the Lost Haven ski cabin. So what this now means in the longer term, if you have someone that needs universal access, comes into the visitor center, can not only now use the trail rider, but through an arrangement with Wolverine Nordic and Mountain Society, can be given a key to go out to the cabin and get into this facility with a wheelchair. So that was the idea here. There's John starting his work. That's Thomas's mother in the distance there, carrying a log to be split. You can see the ramp is taking shape. And at the end of it, the ramp is now in, and we combined the 2 projects, just doing the very first layer of stain on the ramp at the same time. So the Community Forest funding and the Northern Health funding came together very nicely there. And that's at the end of it, lunchtime with the Wiener roast. And there's John Holt surveying his handiwork. He did an absolutely wonderful job. So that's at the end of it. You can see the ski cabin, and you can see not just a staircase, but a lovely universal access ramp as well, and that's another view of the same. Doesn't completely end there, because all those the pieces of decking that we took out from Bulmer's Marshes, we now had 145 pieces of 36-inch wide decking, and we didn't want to throw them away, so we recycled those into boardwalks. And this is Fred and Shauna Booker, who were present on both of those projects. Just want to mention them as well. They come out every year from Mackenzie. Drive out here. We spend 6 days straight on the trails doing all sorts of trail projects, and they don't ask for a cent in return. They refuse any reimbursement for mileage or anything, and it's just an amazing gesture. I mean, Fred used to be the Wolverine president, and they keep on coming back every year doing things like this. So this was a trail in Monkman Park near Canusia Falls, which was getting quite tricky, and these boardwalks solved the problem there. So we put in 3 boardwalks there, and then the second project was at the start of the Bergeron Falls Trail. You can see there's a very wet spot there, and we're using the decking there as well. So that's Thomas with 2 of his kids. Thomas and I did that one together. So that's another completed project. So final slide here. What else can we do with this? Well, Northern Health is quite interested in this, because these are kind of, you can see these photographs, these are things compared to many other projects which don't lend themselves to photographs and being in media, and so that they think this is very suitable for their media. Show what we did, so we're working with them on that, and we were able to complete this the very weekend before the UNESCO evaluators came to town. So we were able to share with Sarah Gamble that these projects were completed, because universal access is very important for geoparks. At least there are some things now within our geopark that contains universal access. And of course, the fact that these were successful, I think that if Councillor Scott, through the BHCC, the committee, if there are further opportunities or further applications, the fact that we've got a good track record now with, if we say we're going to do something, we do it, and we try and do it the best we can. So hopefully in future that leads to further successful applications. So thank you, and if there are any questions, I'd be very happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I for one know that how hard 11-hour day is. Myself, I don't know, it's 87.
Free hot dogs makes it different.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions? Well, I got a question. That trail rider, so that's to get out to that ramp you built at the cabin there. It looked to me like you'd have to have some training on how you manage that thing. It looked a little. It wasn't for just the everyday guy to push somebody down the trail.
It is supposed to be. The trail rider is not just for getting people to the cabin. The trail rider is for getting people down to the bottom of Canusia Falls, and there isn't a single trail in the Tumbler Ridge area that couldn't be done on the trail rider that I can think of. It's for any and every trail. You just need a person in the front and a person in the back. So you need 2 people, and then the person sits in the middle in the seat, gets strapped in, and then it's like a rickshaw basically. You've got 2 handles in the back and 2 handles in front, and one can go anywhere. Since we got that, I think we were the first community in the north to get it, but there's been media coverage now. Prince Rupert has done the same thing, so it's becoming more of an accepted thing to do, and I think it's nice that we were the leaders in it.
Yeah. Yeah, it just, like I said, it probably wouldn't assemble though.
Yeah.
I don't know if we would trust that, even the front and the back.
Yeah.
It's nice to see the community forest is involved in this. It's nice to see. Nothing else?
Not a question, just a comment. And both those projects that you put up there, I mean, what an enhancement to the community. And you can see lots of use on both of them, but especially the Boom Moose Marsh one. Every time you go by there, there's somebody in there. People camp there, and it's just like I say, a fantastic addition.
I would like to thank the volunteers and you for presenting this, because it gives a nice visual to what Northern Health is all about. They're encouraging family, regardless of, age or inabilities. It makes it accessible to, and Northern Health is very open to that inclusive, healthy family and the communities.
I was in NCLGA meeting one time, and there's a community in there talking about, they took some of the old belting off a belt line like Quintet had there, and they use that for road access trails to some of the things. And it was probably just after Quintet got rid of theirs, so if that ever happens again, that sounds like a pretty good stuff to run a wheelchair on, is that big belting.
We've actually spoken to Tech about it, and apparently the last time it wasn't available, but they know we're interested if the opportunity does come. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for your presentation. Oh yeah, and you had what you wanted to add.
If I may, I know it's not on the agenda, but you've got to be careful of Dr. Helm when he bears gifts. I've got gifts for you folks. So on Saturday is the 20th Emperor's Challenge, and somehow we've managed to keep going for 20 years. Every time it seems like it's the last one, but we keep on rising from the ashes. So it's been, this Saturday will be 20 years in a row, and so to celebrate that, we brought out a 240-page hardcover, full-color book called 20 Years of the Emperor's Challenge. And so what I'd like to do is just give each of you a copy for yourselves, if they are signed. I'd appreciate beginning with Councillor Casely, because on page 122, which is the page that deals with the District of Tumbler Ridge contributions, there's a photograph of Councillor Casely.
Thank you very much. Look at this. How did I get up that high?
Thank you. And Mayor McPherson was kind enough to give us a message, which is in the front of the book.
Gonna look for 122, like,
Thanks, Mr. Johnson.
concentrated with the.
Oh. Hi.
Thank you.
We have one for our CAO as well. So I think just on behalf of the Emperor's Challenge Committee to thank, literally since the first year, the district we've never come to the district for financial support, but there's logistical support in terms of taking equipment and things out to the site, barricades, etc., which we don't have otherwise. So we know the district has been there every year for us, so that's much appreciated too. So,
It's been a great partnership.
yeah, it has. And we have,
It doesn't seem like it's been bad.
I would just like to introduce Tor to you, Tor Gertsen, all the way from Norway. So he's an international researcher comparing the Emperor's Challenge with a few other similar events elsewhere in the world and looking at the socio-economic impact of races like this. So he's here interviewing people. He'll be speaking with a number of you. And again, we appreciate through CAO Wall and Mr. Powell that you're accommodating him very kindly in your condo and the hotel for a few nights. So again, speaks of the cooperation which we've had, and we're expecting something very positive and useful in terms of understanding what something like the Emperor's Challenge does, not just for the community, but for the region. Thank you.
Welcome to town.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, especially when it's such nice weather.
Oh, yeah. Okay, thanks very much. 5.2, we go to TR Fall Festival, and April Cooper, you're welcome to the delegation table.
Thank you.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. So I'd like to start out by apologizing in my late appearance here. I have had 2 bouts with health this year and wasn't sure if I was actually even going to be able to take this on this year. So I'm good to go. so the doctor says, and I work better under pressure. So I have submitted a list. I would like to let you know that I am starting with a budget of 0. Everything that was done last year and that was brought in from the vendors was given to the Saddle Club, and they used it to do I call it horsey stuff. But, so I am starting with a budget of 0. I have separated from the Saddle Club because I would like to grow. As you can see, I've changed the name. It is now called the Tumbler Ridge Fall Festival, because calling it the Grizzly Valley Fall Fair was very confusing to people, confusing it with GrizzFest. And every other fall fair has the name of the town in it. So I've changed it. The Saddle Club will still be doing their horse show, and they will be doing their own thing, which I will be advertising. And I am going out on my own. As of right now, I have 60 confirmed vendors, so I have even more than last year. Looks like I'm going to be up around 100. Lindsay Roberts in the community center is already on go with the ball tournament. Looks like we're looking at about 10 to 12 out of town ball teams that will be in town for Saturday will be ball and Sunday will be the finals. Last year, a problem was food. I have food trucks coming in this year. I have local restaurants joining in, possibly a pancake breakfast. But when you bring in that many people and you want them to stay here for the weekend, you need something for them to do when ball is over. And that is why I have put a request in for dance. So I'm requesting for the curling rink, which I know that the ice is supposed to go in on the 15th. I'm hoping to have that extended to the 17th instead of going in on the 15th. I do have a DJ with a photo booth, which is really cool and lots of fun to everyone, that I have lined up. I had children's entertainment lined up and then found out they've been here twice in the last 2 months, so I'm looking at different entertainment for the kids. I have been offered the large bouncy house from Canoe McColl. Canoe McColl will also be putting in ball teams and will be participating. They will also have an HR table with the vendors for this year. I have somebody donating a very large cake that will be open to all the public for free. There will be no cost this year for anything except for to the vendors and to the ball teams. And if the dance is approved, the dance will be $10 per person to get in, so that we keep it reasonable, so that we get people to come out. And because I have started with a budget of 0, one of our local businesses has gotten a floating alcohol license. And they are going to take over the alcohol, so they have to deal with the serving it right, the alcohol, the staff, everything. I've asked them to keep the cost of the drinks down so that we can make sure that the dance is attended and is busy. So they will be offering $5 drinks, and from every drink sold, 10 cents of that will go to a nonprofit organization in Tumbler Ridge. I would like to make sure everybody's clear that all my time spent on this is volunteer. I even pay my $40 for my vendor table, so I take no profit from this whatsoever. It's just something I took on and think it's something really cool. Unfortunately, Chetwynd this year has had to cancel their fall festival because they could not get enough volunteers. So I'm having the same problem. Right now I'm a one-person show. I have one person helping me with the paperwork, but other than that, I've done all of this on my own, and I have got quite the response, and I now have the organizers from the Chetwynd Fall Fair helping me that are sending everything my way. So again, sorry for being so late on this, but I wasn't sure if I was going to be doing it this year. And and I have also been offered the Canada Day fireworks for Saturday evening. after ball is over so that everybody can enjoy them. And it will be a lot earlier because it's darker earlier, right? So it would be, but they couldn't let them off on Canada Day, and Grizzfest it was too hard to do. So they approached me and asked if it would be something I would be interested in. Pretty well everything. I've put everything on the paperwork there.
Thank you for your presentation. My question is, can you do it?
Yeah. I made my husband take holidays. He has to help, so yeah, I'm okay. I've been given the okay to go ahead.
Sure.
Is this a not-for-profit organization? How is it actually set up when you're asking for cash to start up?
No, I'm not actually. I have met with Jordan and the mayor, and I'm hoping that I am blanketed under the District of Tumbler Ridge is for the insurance and stuff, Jordan. I'm not sure.
One more comment. We already have quite a few organizations in town and festivals, and we've had the fall fair, like in the fall down at the Saddle Club. We have Grizzfest, and we have like a huge issue with getting volunteers to pull off the events. And I'm just, it's interesting to see the community center organizing things. Like, I think we should focus on the ones we have right now to continue having them successful. I just see, I think it's really great that you have this idea, but pulling it off is a huge job.
Well, I pulled it off last year and it was quite successful.
I'd like to see a collaboration maybe with, and strengthening some of the events that we already have.
I kind of take a different view on that. I like what they've done with it in the past. I think last year what they did was really good. I like the idea that they're trying to expand it. I like the idea of a dance. I think that's a great idea to get funding. The one thing I'm a little bit uncomfortable with is I'm uncomfortable with like pointing up the money to not a not-for-profit society. You know what I mean? It's a bit of a gray area for me there. I think you've got all the stuff in place there that you could likely recoup the money. Would there be any possibility that we could get a recoup of that?
To get paid back?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. So if we charge $10 each to get in the dance, then yes, I can pay back. But then I'm before mayor and the council next year looking for funding again and starting with a budget of $0. So, I mean, I can, like I say, I'm not taking any profit from this whatsoever or anything. So it just means that I was looking to grow it even more, right? So, but I mean, yeah, I mean, if $10 a person, between $40 a vendor, $200 a ball team, and $10 a person to get in the dance, then yes, the $4,100 is quite easy to pay back, and the rest, we were looking at just, going into whatever organization we could for next year's fall fair. So I was too late to start an organization. I actually tried, but I was not. I called Prince George. I went through everything. It was just, it was too late to be able to do it.
So then again, in the alcohol sales is something else. So I don't really understand the agreement that you have somebody that has some type of a license and they're going to collect all the money from the alcohol sales except for 10 cents. I mean, to me, like being involved in old timers hockey and rec hockey, that's always been the point that we've been able to make the money on is the drink tickets and the drink sales. And to me, if you had that income or you're able to get some more money out of that from whoever's doing this for you, that I'd be more comfortable with it at that point.
The reason I had to give up the alcohol is because to be able to sell the alcohol to make a profit, I had to have money to buy the alcohol. Mm-hmm. I have a budget of $0. So I did not have anything to buy the alcohol. Action Play Cafe has applied for a floating liquor license, so they are right there in the building. They already have their own serving at right servers. And so they I found the best way for me this year with no budget would be to hand it off to someone else. And that's why I went that route.
Councillor Shawford.
My other concern is the ice. I know we've asked to have ice put in like at the beginning of the, when they do their little circuit or whatever, and we've asked for the ice to go in before the end. We used to be on the tail end of it. So what kind of a cost will that be, or is that even doable?
Councillor Kirby, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just at, April, what day is this event on?
September 15th.
And have you checked into any other venues to have the dance at?
No, I did. I was trying to think of someplace that would be big enough. Because you're looking at, if we get 12 ball teams, that's an awful lot of people because most of them are going to bring their other half. And then the vendors, if we've got the vendors too, and they're bringing their other half, like, I just don't know of another venue that would be big enough.
I like that you're trying to add another event to Tumblr. I think the fall tournament is good along, it's not the fall fair, it's a fall festival. I think when you're starting a new event, you kind of start out small and get bigger. You seem to be starting off really big and just trying to, see how it happens. I wouldn't myself vote for any of the cash donations just because you're not a group. At the end of the day, where's the money going to? How's it budgeted? What are you going to do if there is? Where's the money going if you make a profit, etc. The in kind with setup and stuff, might be willing, listen to the rest of the discussion from council. I think maybe another venue could be the Quonset at the Saddle Club. That's a fairly big.
They're doing a huge dancing horse show. They are bringing in people also from out of town. That's what they use the funds from last year's fall fair is they have their own, I guess it's going to be quite a large event. I'm sorry, I'm not into this kind of stuff, but I guess these are well-known group with dancing horses. So I believe that most of the Saddle Club is all going to be taken up for that.
Just one more question, the cost of insurances.
For?
Well, I think there's the cost to when you're putting on an event, there's insurance like for the dance with it. So you're expecting the district to be the umbrella to all the activities going on?
Yes, I had met with before and was hoping to be blanketed under the insurance like we were last year.
Yeah, so do we have any precedence on this, Mr. Wall? Is there something similar to this where we've given money to a group that would be not for profit and we asked to get the money back? Is there anything that you can think of? To me, it's always been not-for-profit societies that we give money to, right? So, is there any precedent can you think of? Anybody else?
Go ahead, Mr. Wall.
Just to first answer Councillor Scott's question, the ice won't be an issue. It's something we can do. It won't require another plant start, so that's okay. It's just whether or not council wants to delay the access for the curlers. For the second question on giving money to an individual, no, there's no precedence for that. As far as insurance, when we had spoken last time, my advice was to try and find a non-for-profit group to work with in order to go into their insurance. Council, I mean, we could look at extending our insurance to cover it, but when you extend insurance, you accept liability, and here you would be accepting liability for an event that's not being run by the district. That was one of the topics that council had with Grizzfest, so this would be the same situation. We can extend it to them, but we'll be responsible for whatever happens at that event if we do.
The ball tournament is run by the district. All those funds for those ball teams stays with the district. I approached them with an idea and it's all theirs.
Yeah, I really like the idea that you get into the ball tournaments and stuff back that we used to have. And you guys are catered to their ball tournaments and they're pretty spectacular. We used to have that here, so I think this is gonna take some discussion. We don't make decisions here anyway, but, I guess our problem is this is our only meeting in August, so if we're gonna do something, we're gonna have a special meeting on this. But, I'll have some discussions with, Mr. Wall and, see where we go with it. Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor McPherson. Just one more question. Will the ball teams be camping at the Moncton RV Park, or will they be camping somewhere different?
When I met with the community center, they were looking at allowing the ball players to park at and camp at the ball field or Monkman. It really was just an idea I approached and have completely walked away and have left it all up with the community center in the district. Lindsay Roberts is actually, getting a hold of the teams and stuff like that. The only one that I approached was Kanuma. And they are looking to put in 2 to 4 teams.
So one more. So this is actually a district ball tournament, which
Yes.
I didn't realize, it was coming as the fall festival. So it's a district ball tournament, and you're just gonna add some.
Advertisement for that. So what we're trying to do is bring in all walks of life. We're bringing in horsey people, we're bringing in ball players, we're bringing in vendors, we're bringing in shoppers. We're pretty well bringing in everything. And the reason for the dance is to keep them here for the weekend, because the ball finals will be on Sunday. I've got a food truck and a donut truck agreed to be parked at the ball field for the whole weekend. Hoping that everybody from town heads down to the ball field on Sunday, because everything else is done, and head down to the ball field and watch the finals.
Yeah, so I just have a couple things. So one thing is, your vendor's gonna be where? Assuming Front Street?
Well, I had discussed it, and it depended on the road work, when the road work was done. The community center had suggested that to put the vendors at the bottom, but the reason that a lot of seniors had problems going to the Saddle Club last year because of how the venue was. So if we go at the bottom of the community center, then we're looking at seniors and other people having to walk a long distance. So I was hoping for somewhere, along Main Street. I have talked with the government liquor store, and that would be the only place besides the pharmacy that it was open on a Saturday. And they, as long as you leave them a 20-foot space in front of their store, have no problem with it. In fact, other businesses have asked that if it is along those streets, if they could put a table and move some of their business outside.
So you have a backup plan if the paving's not done. So just on this, I see that we're charging for porta potties as well. I'm assuming we're charging the ones for the ball tournament? That wouldn't be on here, on the in-kind. If the district's running a ball tournament, has nothing to do with Miss Cooper.
No, we put that together real fast.
Yeah, and I know you have, so but that would come off, right?
I'd have to take a look at, I don't wanna promise anything.
No,
but
that's
it would seem like that would be the district cost, yes.
So without, if you weren't able to get insurance or have somebody umbrella you under the insurance, if you weren't able to, being able to umbrella under the district's insurance,
Yes, sorry.
you have a backup plan.
Well, I guess I would have to look in trying to purchase. I'm gonna lose most of my vendors because it is really expensive. It's $500 a vendor for one day to purchase insurance. I was just speaking with Paula. As for the cash, she's going to look in and see if there's a possibility that maybe that could be blanketed and go through the library. Because I'm not looking to actually receive any cash. I just need the DJ paid for. And, I don't need any of this cash in my hands whatsoever. So if it's possible to go through the library, then it could be donated in and go that way and then paid out.
So so that would cover your, and you're just looking for a startup fee to cover your costs at the beginning, pay it back, which is good on you. Yeah, I don't see any issue. I pat you on the back for putting it together. I know you've chatted with me a few times, and hats off to you, especially with some of the issues you've had. And
Thank you.
I'll definitely support it. I can't support the casting, but anything else that you need from the district, I would think, except for the umbrella of insurance, because again, that's liability, and I don't think the district wants to take that on. But I think anything else that you would need, I definitely would support that as well. If there's something else that the district side can do, whether it's your posters at no cost or something like that. I know it's not in here, but I'm assuming there's some printing costs there and stuff. So
It
we'll
kind
have a discussion, but.
kind of the way that we went with the advertising was that it was kind of in agreement that other districts would advertise for us for free if we advertise for them playing in the ball tournament. So it's kind of the discussion that I've had with Chetwynd and so on and so forth. So the Saddle Company, Saddle Club has offered me, out of last year's fall fair, $200 towards insurance from last year's profits.
Councillor McKay.
Yep.
Councillor McKay.
Yeah, lots of great ideas, and especially the ball teams and things like that. But last year, I think we got on board with this because of the support we had for the Grizzly Valley Days, and I think that's what it was all about. You were part of that, so by splitting it, you've got vendors down there. Are they going to have vendors over there too? So there's no vendors there now.
No, their main concern is their horse show. That is what they would like is these dancing horses. That was their main reason of doing the fall fair last year, was to raise enough funds to be able to have these dancing horses, which they will be having this year. I believe my understanding is it's already a done deal. They are having the dancing horses. So it would not be possible to have their dancing horses there, and the amount of traffic and people that they've got going through there for that, to also add on traffic for the ball tournament being down on that end, and then add on vendors also. There'd be too many people on one end of town with everything being on that end.
Right, thanks.
So just on that, you just made a comment there, and I'll try and jump in there. What did you make last year at the Saddle Club in regards to the vendors and all that? You say they offered you $200.
They made over $2,000 off the vendors. I did not charge per table. I charged per vendor. Anything non-profit did not pay for their table, and any volunteers beside myself last year received a free table. I did pay for my table last year, and so they made roughly over $2,000.
Thank you.
So have you talked to any nonprofits or anything that you can tie into and maybe do it under their umbrella?
The only one I've actually spoke to is Paula from the library. But like I say, due to health issues, I'm a little behind on this myself. So I'm just kind of, trying to hopefully get it done this year, however I can. And then I actually have 5 people in place to start a fall fair committee for next year.
I'd just like council's perspective. Are we all comfortable with the in-kind portion of it? It seems like to me, the feeling is that the majority of us are comfortable with the in-kind.
Personally, I want to see it. I'd like to see it happen. But we've got some hoops we got to jump or crawl through before we can say yes to everything. That's for sure. So I am definitely supportive of the in-kind.
Thank you.
I don't know if we can, because this, like you say, this is our last meeting in August. So
I was away actually in Prince George in June and away in July also, so it just was really bad timing for me. So this was the only one I could get in on.
I don't know. What does council would like to do? Would we like to vote on the in-kind part of it, and you work on that, and we'll have some discussions on the rest of it. Council's agreeable to that. If not, we can talk about the whole thing.
I also have the ability to, I have had a few vendors that have already paid me, because vendors get very antsy. If they haven't paid, they go to look somewhere else to get into. So I have given everybody a deadline of August 15th to get in for a cheaper cost of their table. Now I can also take that money from those vendors and give it to the DJ, which right now I'm sitting at 60 vendors, that's 2,400. So I'm short a few $100s, but I also know this DJ. I've hired him before from Fort St. John, and he has also given me permission to pay the balance when he is done playing on the Saturday night. So that means I could also take the $10 from the door and pay the DJ off. It does mean that I'm back before whoever's here next year and at a zero again.
Councilor Perry?
Thank you, Mayor McPherson. I like seeing the initiative to start something new, especially when we've already put some money into our ball diamonds, and you know, if we could start generating a ball tournament, you know, people in town is a good thing. It helps local business, etc. The fact that this is a district ball tournament, you know, maybe we could get another report from our community center just on what they're doing, what, you know, how much of this you're doing and what the community center is doing. I would have no problem going with the in-kind so far. And just one more question on the fireworks. Where would those be? Will those still be on the high school ground?
Yes,
Yeah, that'll be done by the
fire department, yes.
Councilor Scott?
So I would be comfortable with the in-kind, not the cash, and the pending insurance. Like I would like to have that firmed up.
Okay, so is there anybody against the in-kind? Councilor Perry?
I'd like to make a motion that council goes forward with the in-kind to the fall festival.
Okay, seconder. Councilor McCarthy? Any more discussion on that?
So I'm in favor of it as well. I'm just not a big fan of our plan our plan is once heard and deferred. We look at stuff in petitions and delegations, we try not to make a decision, right? And I really want to help her out, but I don't like breaking protocol either, right? Like, it's one of those things that it's just, you know, like, I would prefer not break protocol and have a special meeting to come back and say, yes, we'll do that.
Just the timing, it's just really, it's tough.
Yeah,
We get into September then, and we're tied up for a bunch of meetings, so. I know what you're talking about. Councilor McCarthy?
Yeah, and I have no problem with in-kind, but I think there's a couple of questions that have to be asked too. Is this a separation from the Grizzly Valley days? Is that something that's amicable, or is that just, there's a parting of the ways there? And now we get two entities, you know.
there is a bit of a parting of the ways, because I worked really hard. They were gonna cancel last year, and they had a budget of 0, and they were gonna cancel, and I brought in vendors, and I brought in the money, and the reason was, the big thing is that we needed to keep some of that money in the bank, and we were eligible for a $2,500 grant this year. And then we were also eligible to go with the community forest. But there was rules and regulations of what could be done with last year's proceeds from the Grizzly Valley Saddle Club Fall Fair. And so there was regulations to what could be done with those funds to get the grant. And they did not agree with the regulations, so they turned down the grant. And I did not agree with turning down the grant. And I would have liked to have at least seen the money split, that the Grizzly Valley Fall Fair used some for the horse stuff and half was taken to grow it. And instead they wanted to specifically deal with horses. So that's where I kind of just separated. And they still, I mean, they're in agreement. They got together, had a meeting. They were in agreement that they were not interested in growing this as much as I wanted to grow it, and that they would like to still be a part of it. And I will be advertising their horse show and everything else for them, and they will in turn be advertising for me. We just have really had two different ideas of what to do with this, so. And
Yeah, I'll call a question on that. All in favor of the in-kind? Opposed? Okay. I guess we're done on that.
I also just wanted to state another thing. As far as the community center and the ball tournament, they're waiting on me. They were waiting on me. They were waiting for me to come to a council meeting and see what was going on, if this was all going to be a go. And with me being sick and not being here, that's kind of what slowed that up.
Councilor Cook.
Like, I have no issues with it at all in the econ, but Councilor Howe was correct, and I was saying the same thing. He just beat me to the question. I had no problem seconding a motion. I just think we need to have a special meeting. Just, there's some things we just got a paper on our wickets tonight to read through some of the stuff, and you can see I asked Mr. Walsh questions whether those will come off, so that, I mean, that lowers the in-kind costs and stuff. So I think, we need to have that time to just go through it and, have the other questions and then approve it. I don't.
That's fine. I mean, honestly, I'm going to continue on with how I've continued on in the last 2 weeks as it being a go. If it's not a go, then I have to turn around and just say, sorry, it's been canceled, and, and that's just, it is what it is.
I will call a special meeting on this in the next couple of weeks here, and we'll get you an answer.
Sorry, I think you need an answer by about the 15th. Is that correct? 15th of August?
15th of August is what I gave vendors a deadline for, yes. But I can also extend that, so. As for the DJ, he has been very, very good, and he is literally going to wait till the last minute for me if I have to cancel him. It was impossible to get a band. I actually wanted to go for a band, but it's still wedding season. You can't make a band sit around like that. And the reason that I really took this DJ, who I know is a little more expensive, is because the photo booth is a big attraction to everyone.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Would like to think about. Okay, board correspondence, Tumber Ridge Inn. Discussion or
I'd like to move that for discussion, if I may.
Thank you for that. Councilor Scott. Go ahead.
Thank you. And this was my concern when this came forward. I think as business owners hit it correct in regard to, we've offered up a building or a spot and everything else, give them a space and how to open up a business for $1. I believe they're tax exempt over there as well. So that was my concern. And I definitely 100% see where this gentleman's coming from and fully support him. I know he's already reached out to myself. But that was my concern in the beginning in regards to the caboose. And the concept of what the caboose was used for. It wasn't in regards to anything else except for, we were looking at giving them a business for $1 being taxed. And I just proved it here from the business running into it, saying we could affect his employees. That's huge. That's huge. That's all I have to say.
Councilor Scott.
In my opinion, turning the caboose into a kiosk is assisting business as well. And it's commercializing also a piece of Tumble Ridge's history. And it gets away from the intent of when it was originally donated to Tumble Ridge. And then there's the gardens that the children, like they have them plant the garden and engage in community. And that's kind of in a gray area now, and I've heard that the plants have in essence died. So we really need to be consistent on, with mayor and council and admin if we want existing businesses to be able to remain open and to draw new business, because that's what they look at. They come in to see what policies and procedures are and consistency of what we do.
Councilor Howe.
I totally agree with Councilor Cook on this one and whoever wrote the letter here. We are all about, we all ran on the platform of supporting business and helping business. Geopark is not the business we're trying to support here, right? We are trying to make the Geopark work and do its thing, but to me, if they would just remove the vending machine for selling the ice cream or whatever they want to sell out of there, that would solve all of our issues here and we could continue on with the lease. But I am totally not in support of doing that, and I was on the same page when we talked about this vote originally. I never thought that they even sold ice cream. I just didn't like the idea of the coffee shop. I thought it was Action Play that would have an issue with it actually. But so myself, totally agree with the guy and think we need to relook at that, and perhaps we need to talk to the Geopark and say this is not what we do to support business. We need to remove that idea of the espresso machine or whatever ice cream or whatever they're gonna sell over there. I totally don't like the idea of doing the lease for $1. It's totally supporting somebody else that's gonna go against the business that they've been doing for years.
When I talked to Mr. Wall about this morning, I knew this was going to come up, and so I brought it up, and what he told me was the house would be rented for market rate. It wouldn't be rented for $1. It would be a private business go in there and do it. What the plan is, but that is a little different than what we're talking about here. Councilor McKay and Councilor Kirby.
Well, that's the concern I would have had, is if it was being given for the $1, but if we're gonna be charging the regular, we've done that before. There was a gentleman who used to be over there with, that had a visitor, by the visit, like tourist, gifts, that type of thing. Actually, even had IKEA furniture, the smaller stuff, but, right out of that caboose. Now, it wasn't the Geopark, but, then I think if they are gonna pay the market price for that, I think that negates any concern.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think we have a few instances in town where we run under a different, if it's $1, we have Action Play Cafe, the golf course has different leasing options than other businesses. We have, like even the TR Museum Foundation, they have the building for $1, but yet they run a gift store out of it. And even there's jewelry sold in the health clinic. There's different issues. I think if it's the land they're leasing for $1, but that business would have to get a business license and everything else in accordance to our bylaws. Is that right, Mr. Wall?
The business would have to get business licenses. The business would not be able to lease it for $1. The business would have to lease it for market value.
So are you telling me that the Geopark is taking over that spot for $1 or whatever, is gonna sublease it?
That's correct.
So any lease or contract we have within the district, they can sublease it out to somebody else and make more money off that?
No, on this project, the ability to do so was put in there because that was part of the project that they presented to council, because that's what they were going to do.
Okay, myself, I'm still not comfortable with the optics of it. To me, it doesn't look good. That's not the way I understood it. I did not know anything about a sublease on the caboose. I thought we're giving that land, that caboose, all that stuff for $1 to the Geopark. I did not know anything about receiving re-renting off of that. So that's new information to us. And I'm still not comfortable with it because I don't like the optics of it. To me, it's just like a conflict of interest. If you don't like the optics of it, you shouldn't do it. And I don't like it. So I think we should tell the Geopark not to have it in there.
So Mr. Wall, I apologize. Was that sublease thing in our paperwork? Or is that something that was signed with staff?
So I don't think there was paperwork from staff on this project. If council recalls, administration's recommendation to council was not to move forward the way you were and to go to a competitive process where people would put their projects down. And what council instead did was provide direction to move forward with the Geoparks project as they presented to you. So at the time, this was part of the Geoparks presentation that they were going to put a business in the caboose.
Yeah.
So there's nothing from administration saying that was going to happen, but that wasn't the route the council took on this project. You guys watched the presentation and told us to move forward with what they presented.
So my concept of that was put a business in there, which I didn't go in favor of it anyways, in regards to the business part. Didn't see anywhere in there it stated that they were gonna sublease it to another organization to make money off the district. Because if we're giving it to them for $1 and they go out and rent that spot for whatever the market value is, who gets the money? They do. I mean, I know it's not, there's no motion here, but that just seems wrong. That just seems wrong.
That was mentioned when they did their presentation that they were gonna do, that was in the plans. And it's not a whole bunch different than what they do with the Vic Center, when they sell, what they build in town here and, their goods and, make a profit off it. It's not a,
They make a percent, right? A percent. They're not subleasing half the big center. That's my concern. We give it to them the sublease.
And at that time, my argument was I thought that would have been a prime location for a entrepreneur or someone to come in.
exactly what we're talking about.
Yes, no, I was saying sell it, that's not, it wasn't subletting it, somebody purchasing and developing their own business. I'm really tired of us giving to people to make money, and some of these subleases or whatever, they come in and how long do they stay? Are they still here? I want to see long-term, not the short-term stuff.
Councillor McCarthy.
Is there anything in the contract that we could actually, if something was to come up, we had an interested business that had a legitimate interest in that property, that we could say within 2 months, within 3 months or whatever, that you have to vacate the premises. We've got a different plan. Because I like Geopark. I think it's right. I think that's great. They're showing the same initiative, the same intuitive that gets them where they are today. And
I'm not sure, Mr. Waller.
I would have to check to see what the exit clause is. I mean, the council's entered into the agreement with them for the entire parcel, so to remove that one section of it, we'd be talking about, you'd have to go through a subdivision process. I mean, you'd have to have it surveyed, go through a subdivision process, create different parcels and move forward. One other thing to consider is that this was part of their presentation that they planned to do this, and they listed it as part of their revenue stream. You may want to talk to the Geopark of whether or not that revenue stream was part of what allowed them to get the grant from NDIT, and whether that grant from NDIT will disappear without that revenue stream. I don't know if it will, but I do know that was part of the revenue. The NDIT grants that you apply for, every year you have to list the amount of revenue that's coming in from the project, and that was part of the revenue they were planning to. They may have revenue from other sources that let them hit that minimum, but they may not as well. So it's something that council should talk to the Geopark before decisions are made, if decisions are going to be made.
Thank you, Mayor McPherson.
Yeah, this is not a new item to me, and I looked at that as the same as the
Gift shop at the museum. It's a revenue, the revenue is going back into the Geopark. If there's,
I can't see it, being a big issue. Now, would the Geopark
itself have to take out a business license to run a coffee shop
or even to sell
Geopark tourist kind of things in it on top of, anyway? I mean,
So, no, it doesn't make sense. So the Geopark, any nonprofit has to take out a business license. The district bylaws provide those business licenses to nonprofits for no fee, but the business that would be going in, that the Geopark is planning to sublease to, if they can find somebody to do it, would have to pay for a business license.
So again, I totally remember their delegation, or seen their delegation, they talked about opening that business, and that's why I was opposed to the vote when they talked about putting a business in it. To me, they were talking about putting a business on their own in there, and my understanding, it's actually a business that already exists within Tumbler Ridge, so it's not a new outdoor. It's actually an existing business, that was let out at the global banquet down at the golf course.
Can you just repeat yourself again there?
So
kind of missed what you're saying.
So the business that's proposed to go in there is already existing business. I'm not gonna say who it is.
Into the caboose.
Yeah.
Okay.
So to me, it was pre-planned, but that's not how the delegation went in my eyes. It was like they were gonna run this business.
We don't know.
Coffee.
We don't.
We don't know what.
We don't know that anything was pre-planned.
No. Pre-planned.
He just said this would be pre-planned, that somebody with an existing business is gonna.
Well, it seems to me the delegation was them opening their business, a business. Not somebody else, not a sublease. It's nowhere stating they're a sublease. That's the issue that I have with it, is they're gonna sublease. We gave the whole lot to them for a buck. I didn't vote in favor of it the first time because to me it was helping a business open a business. I don't support it now.
Councillor Okay.
Well, if you look at what we're trying to do, we're trying to turn the place into a little bit of a tourist community, and so far we're doing pretty good at it. And one thing that Sarah had pointed out is a couple of areas in town that could definitely use a little more traffic. That being one of them, as well as our Main Street heater is a bloody disaster. That's nothing but closed stores and the office space, and that should have been fixed a long time ago and put into retail. And that's where we're missing the ball. Over there, there's a couple of places over there where if you had sidewalk cafes, this whole town would be changed for events like Driss Fest, anything else. This is an attempt to get us in that direction, and I'm fully behind it.
Okay. We don't even have a motion on the floor.
Oh.
So could somebody give me one?
I'll put that on the floor, if you don't mind.
What's the motion?
Motion on the floor.
You gonna put it?
I will, yeah.
There you go.
Put a motion on the floor that we ask the Global Geopark to remove the coffee machine and ice cream shop from the Caboose.
Okay. Any more discussion on it? Okay, all in favor of that? Opposed? Defeated. Okay.
Motion on the floor?
What's that?
Okay, can I put a motion on the floor? That we accept the proposal that's been put forward?
We've already done that.
Oh, but it wasn't, was it approved?
We passed,
Okay, I'm sorry.
a long time ago, we passed that they could put it.
Passed it, why are we?
6.2, Northern Tourism, 2018. And, I guess my question here is to Councilor Kirby, if you'd be interested in taking that on.
You just check the date on that.
11th to 12th.
Yep, I would go to that.
Councilor Kirby.
Your worship, just about a general information, I'm sure we're aware of it there. Our last council meeting is October 9th.
Oh, yeah.
The 18th, so I just, those are reminded the council. That's our last council meeting.
You think it's
Well, we could save some money. I might not be in the next election to have anything to but I mean, I would definitely go. That's a choice of this council. If they want someone to represent the district at that, I would go, but would totally, fine by your decisions.
I'll make the motion that we support the funding of sending our Councilor Kirby's tourism portfolio to this Northern BC Tourism Summit on October 11th and 12th in Prince George. Secretary Councilor Kakaka. Any more discussion on it? Councilor Scott?
I think it's important that we do have a representative from Tumbler Ridge, regardless of, it just keeps us up there.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Ministry of Children and Family Development. Information or discussion? Okay, Secretary? Okay. All in favor? Regional District of Vulcan and Nechako. I just gotta say about this is that that runs really similar to what the coalition sent, the letter to the coalition, so that actually, we're part of the coalition, so it's actually Tumbler Ridge too, so. I think it's nice to see more people do it. We could do one private too, but I think we're already in that. Good with that? Okay. 6.5, Northern Development Initiative Trust Tumbler Ridge Investment Attraction Marketing Initiative. And that's just to tell us we got it right. Councilor Kirby.
Move for information?
Okay, seconder. Councilor Scott, all in favor? UBCM small talk memo. Councilor Scott.
Just move for information, I think it needed to be submitted today, so that, yeah.
Secretary. All in favor? Letter to TRGG evaluators. Information and discussion. Casey?
Move for information.
Seconder, Councilor Kai. All in favor? Carried. Letter, Thunder Ridge Museum Foundation. Information and discussion. Councilor Hoff?
Discussion. So, in the letter from the president of the TRMF, she makes a statement in here that says it's illegal for us to ask for specific information regarding individual employees' compensation. So, my question to that, are they not a non-for-profit organization? And is it actually illegal for us to ask for a breakdown of the wages? Mr. Wall?
Well, this question's come up many times. Never heard a clear answer on it.
No, it's certainly not illegal for council to ask for it. It's not illegal for organizations to publish wages. The district publishes our wages, union wages are public. A number of nonprofits publish some of their wages. Some of the wages of the TRMF are published within their master plan. The companies go out and ask for job postings. Come take this job for $20. They're posting wage and salaries. I'm not aware of if they have internal policies. There may be an internal policy of the TRMF that says we won't publish your salary, and if that's the case, then they'll have issues with their employees. But as far as legal standing goes, no, it wouldn't be illegal for council to ask, and wage rates are not protected information.
So, and then a second thing, so if it's not illegal, I don't see why they can't provide it for us. We are a major supporter of the museum, similar to the Peace River Regional District. I don't understand why we can't get that money. I don't understand the reluctance to show us how it all pans out. What's the problem? Second thing I have to say is the president also says in her message that she had requested the meeting. She is not the only one that requested a meeting. We also requested a meeting. She had her topics, we have ours. So once again, instead of coming to the table to try and hash out some of the things that we've talked about, it's evidenced in this letter the museums once again respectfully declined to participate in a meeting with the District of Tumbler Ridge. I don't understand how that's continuously thought as helpful. We ask them to come to a meeting, they want to have a meeting, then they send a letter and say, we are not coming to your meeting. It's right here in black and white. They are declining the meeting. I think that is wrong. We gave them $50,000 to continue operations for the summer. We asked them to come in to have a meeting. They have declined to have a meeting. Their answer to us is, this council won't be here in October. You don't have a choice on deciding where the funding goes after this point. So that to me is completely wrong. That there's all this stuff out in the media about the District of Tumbler Ridge versus the museum and back and forth. Here it is again in black and white. We want to have a meeting. They are declining the meeting. Don't get that. Why? Because we might not be the same people in the seats. I don't understand that. That's a problem I have. We signed an agreement for 2018, and what we're trying to do is get out in front of the funding for 2019. That's what I'm trying to do. I want to know where we're going with this. I don't want to leave the problems that we were left as we came on in council 4 years ago for the next council that comes on. This is an issue that is not going to be resolved by the time the next council comes on. I thought if we were able to get out in front of this, help come up with some new ideas, get the people to the table, start the discussions now, so that the new council doesn't come in and all of a sudden January pops up and they're doing the next budget. It's not helpful, these types of letters, for them to come back with. So there's a couple things I wanted to throw out there.
And I agree with you, Colby, and I'm sure the regional district knew that we asked for a meeting and they declined it. And I really hope that this isn't kept secret when the new council appears, or when they request funding, that this is the attitude they got. And I don't think this is going to help them. I really don't. Councilor Scott.
I was going to say, some of these comments, though, from them in the letters are made kind of in the heat of the moment. They're obviously feeling frustration. I think we need to keep throwing it out there that we do need to meet. Like, there's a lot of stuff on the line, and we, like, I just think we should extend it again, and maybe they'll rethink it.
Well,
We can set another date. I don't know, like,
I'm open to suggestions because I've been trying.
no, I know you have. I know, and everyone, I think, is feeling the frustration, and it's not just us, it's them as well. But there's times when a person needs to put aside their differences and come to the table and discuss stuff.
Yes.
And come up with solutions.
Yes.
Okay, I'll make a suggestion that we send an invitation that is just to talk about the future.
Yes, I agree.
And if council backs me to that, then we'll send that in. That takes all the arguments away. Councilor Mackay, you had something there?
Yeah, I agree with you, and, but the thing is, if they've got in their mind somehow, they're gonna come into council chambers and get totally hammered, we're not gonna see them. And I think that's what they think. I think it's gonna, they feel they're gonna walk into a cauldron of hatred or whatever, and that's obviously not the case. So I think if we have a list of topics that we look at discussing and discuss them amicably, without battering at each other, I think that would be the solution.
I can sit down with Mr. Wall and come up with a letter that we can, and with subjects that look into the future, and we'll send it out to council, and if you're okay, then we'll send it out.
So to me, there has to be some common ground between the two groups. There has to be some low-hanging fruit, I like to call it, that we can easily pick off and agree on certain things. And then there's gonna be the stuff that we're gonna set aside to disagree on. At least that's a start to get us in the right direction. And to me, you know, I don't think these questions are gonna go away with the next council. As a matter of fact, I think they're gonna be under the microscope even worse. So, you know, and is there any way we can have that type of a meeting like Councilor Mackay and you have suggested, not in the council chambers? Can we have it in a more neutral setting? Can we have it in rooms 4 and 5? You know, I don't know, because we have a quorum of council there, if that means something different for a meeting, but
I'm sure we can do it.
that to me would be better.
Or downstairs, right center or something. Yeah, so we'll get a letter together and then figure out where, I think you're right, it's good not to have it here. So, that's great.
I think it's pretty sad that we have to not have it in our council chambers when we are making the decisions for the residents of Tumbler Ridge here, and that we can't meet and are worried about how we're all gonna play nice. There's some real serious issues that we have to hash out, and if we call a meeting and they don't like our agenda, it's kind of, again, we're trying to get to the table and you can see that they push back. Yes, we need to have a meeting. The purpose of having that meeting was also for something for us to go to UBCM with. You know, so that's just my opinion on that. I am totally ready to go to the table. I've always been at the table, trying to work things out. So, whatever council agrees with, I'm on board. But those are just some of my.
I think that, UBC, you just mentioned, it is a big deal. We've gotta go there with, we've made steps.
Yeah.
To improve this, you know, and if they don't see that, I don't know if they do or not. If they don't see that, if they think that they can just bypass us altogether, I think they're dead wrong. They'll regret it in the end, but I still think we can come up with a letter and we're not gonna just address the habit stuff. I mean, how are we gonna get past this?
Well, I was just thinking, there's a lot of professionals and scientific people there. They possibly have some solutions or ideas going forward. So I have no idea how to run a museum or the some of the struggles they have been having. So like I said, if we can get everyone together, maybe with all of this publicity, everyone is getting forced to resolve something to take it to UBCM or to move forward, because we're putting a lot of things at risk.
Well, there was something offered to me the other day there, and that was the regional district. Brad asked, the chair, Brad, asked me what I thought about him calling a meeting with 3 Trail Park Museum and I thought it over for a couple of days, and I went back to him and said, I think the Peace River Regional District have set out what they want to see, and call it a meeting, you just say, well, maybe this is what we want. And I said, I think you said where you stand now, and I think you stand behind me. And so, you're not gonna do that, so. We'll offer once more, and then we can go that route if you wanna try that. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. So was Brad offering to mediate or just like to run a meeting with the three, or
I'm not quite sure what he was offering.
He was he wasn't even sure what he was offering. I'm not sure if he said, well, maybe if I invite everybody to the table and do it, say, in Dawson Creek, then maybe it'd be and it does have some merit. At first I thought, yeah, I said, yeah. Then the more I thought about it, the more I think they've set out where they stand, and I don't think they should be backing down from that.
I think you're right there. I think this is an in-house.
Kind of problem that I think that we can figure out.
Yeah.
There's
I'd like to do it that way.
Definitely we can make, we can't, it's forward from here, I think.
I think we're at the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that, Mr. Wall.
One question.
Go ahead.
Do we want to set a date, like in August, for that, or will?
Good, how about we do that when we get to
Okay.
our scheduled meeting?
We'll just,
Yeah, do we have to do a motion on this or give direction to do this?
I think we can just get the letter in writing, or did you want a motion?
If the letter's coming from the mayor, you don't need a motion.
But I'll get everybody to approve it before I send it.
okay.
Okay, bylaws, zoning amendment bylaw number 665, 2018, we have a recommendation there. Councilor Pajoka?
That the District of Tumber Ridge zoning amendment bylaw number 665, 2018 be adopted.
Secretary, Councilor Scott. Discussion on it? Councilor Scott?
I do have one question. I think I read that there were provincial guidelines that have been issued regarding the cannabis legalization, and I was just wondering if that affects any of our bylaws that we've come up with, or also that letter of support that we carried. I was just wondering if we should be looking at any revisions prior to passing this.
It does affect the letter of support. It's likely that that letter of support won't be accepted by the provincial government, but it doesn't affect any of the bylaws.
Thank you.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. 7.2, business license amendment bylaw number 666, 2018. Recommendation, Councilor Casey.
Move the recommendation as presented, Your Worship.
Secretary, Councilor Scott. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Fees and charges amendment bylaw number 669, 2018. Councilor Scott.
That the District of Tumble Ridge Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw Number 669, 2018 be adopted.
Okay. Discussion? Favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, new business, 8.1, the high-speed internet next steps. We have a recommendation there. Councilor Kirby?
The council approves an unbudgeted grant to Chris in the amount of $110,000 to undertake a feasibility study and network design.
Second to that, for that? Okay. Discussion? Councilor Scott?
I was just wondering, it says we've already been approved for that $250,000 NDIT grant. Is it dedicated to this project?
Well, it's dedicated to the project, but it's mostly for construction. It'll allow a small portion of the feasibility study to be covered, but the majority of this feasibility study won't be covered by the grant. So if council moves forward with this project and the feasibility study turns out that it's not feasible, you won't be able to recoup those costs.
So this is if it's feasible for Chris to make money out of it.
This is if it's feasible, one, part of it's for the network design, so it's not just feasibility, it's to actually design the solution which can go out to be constructed. But yeah, part of it's if it's possible to be done, so it's checking to see if we have the conduit space, which we've done a number of checks already, and it does appear, so we're not going into this completely blind. So it appears that everything's going to be okay, but it's to see where can it go, what's gonna need to be done in different places. And part of this as well too is entering into negotiations with TELUS because they own the conduit and it's actually their internet line to town. So Chris is going to have to rent bandwidth space, which TELUS has to provide according to federal telecommunications regulations. So it's to get all of that in place to see if it can be done. So there's a number, is it feasible technically? Like, can it actually physically be done? That's part of the feasibility. And then the other part is, what are the costs going to be for implementation? And then what's the feasibility of the cost structure once it's in place? So how much is it actually gonna cost to deliver the service?
And do we recoup the costs from Chris?
So this is something that needs to be figured out later on, and I mentioned it in the report, but what it's looking like we're going to do is enter into an agreement with Chris where we upfront the costs, and then as per year, as Chris makes money, we'll recoup it. And then we would have a caveat in there to make sure that if Chris was ever to go bankrupt, not provide the service, all of that infrastructure would revert back to us. It's really important though that we don't take ownership of this. The district does not want to become a telecommunications company. It's an extremely regulated area of commerce, and if we get into that, we're going to need a number of new staff members in order to do this. So that's why we're looking to structure it as that Chris does it. We can get repaid over time as they make money. Chris doesn't have the money to do this project up front, and that's where this partnership can come into. But as I noted in the report, there's a number of questions that need to be resolved, both on the technical aspect, which this feasibility study does, and then what that relationship would look like between Chris and the district.
So the number I've seen is between 800 and 1.4. Let's just say it's, I don't know, say it's $1 million to do this project, and we get $250,000 from NDIT to actually construct it. So we'd be looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $750,000 if that were the case. And we think that we'd be able to recoup all of that money from Chris at some point. If this is kind of the risk that we're taking. Here's $100,000. Let's see if this thing can even kick off. And if they say yeah, we can do it, then we'd have to then pony up an additional. That's correct. Okay. Strong.
So basically, the benefit to the town of Tumbler Ridge would be high speed, like quality internet service or whatever. And the time frame to recoup, do we have an estimate on that?
It'll be dependent on what comes out of this study. How much are the costs going to be? We don't know that, and we don't know what the haul rates are going to be from TELUS, and we don't know what the conduit charge rates are going to be, and they're not going to provide us those rates until this is done.
And the other thing, it's BC Tel, we gotta give them $1 million to get put on a 5-year list. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah.
For TELUS, is that what you said?
Yeah.
For TELUS?
Yeah.
Let's not discuss that further.
Just my thoughts. There's $110,000 grant to them. It doesn't come back. We've lost $110,000, or we do the grant $110,000. The next council comes in, doesn't want to spend another $750,000. That's fine. I won't be supporting it just for that purpose. With that money going forward, 110. Some of us might not be running, some of us might not be here, and all of a sudden, inbound council says they don't want to support that. We just throw $110,000 of taxpayer dollars. That's my only concern there.
Sure.
Well, the alternative to this recommendation is that we defer it to 2019, so.
There's already motion.
Yeah, the only thing I have to say about that is that, do you see this town not needing a good high-speed internet? I think every town needs it if you want to be competitive in this world.
Oh,
And I think this has got to be spent before they know whether they want to spend the rest of the money. Because this is how you come up with a plan. So I think there's nothing wrong with doing this right now. That comes true.
Thank you, Worship. I agree with you. I think we've talked about this a lot. It's come up at different meetings that, we could, there's other businesses that have considered coming to town, but our internet just doesn't suit their needs. And I think moving forward, at some point we need to get there. I'm in favor.
Yeah, it's not that I don't think we need it, my concern is if it goes through, and the other council doesn't take it down, that's my concern. I voted in favor of something, that's all I'm saying. I don't think the town, I mean, I am 100% think the town needs this. I think every resident, there's other business, like you said, there's business that can't come here due to our speed. I think it's very important, it's almost the wrong time of year for this to come up.
It doesn't matter if you go to the FCM, UBCM, the Northern BC, internet services is one of the biggest things that they talk about, and then getting connectability everywhere. And I'm kind of surprised if there's not more grants that become available, even to maybe offset some of the costs. So I think that's possible.
That's what the NDID is to get
Yeah,
communities
yeah.
and cars hooked up. Councilor Scott.
If we pass this, when would this feasibility study take place, and how long would it, what's the time frame to complete it?
It would depend when the company's able to come in. I know a lot of the logistics they want to do in the summer, and that just has to do with getting down into manholes and taking a look at different places. So I'm not sure when it would be completed. I think that the time frame is before the end of the year. If it's delayed, I don't think a lot of this can be done in the winter. The companies that do this are pretty high in demand. They may just simply say, no, we're not going to do it in the winter. You guys can wait till next summer. But that's a council decision.
So my comment is to Councillor Krakauka. We're in the seats right now. We've got to make the decisions right now. And you're right, somebody could come in and they could reverse it, but to me, what's best for the community going forward is the high-speed internet. I'm not super comfortable with the amount. I'm not super comfortable that it doesn't service the entire town. I don't like the fact that it doesn't go out towards the heavy industrial park, out towards the Quintet Coal. I'm not super comfortable that that is not finalized yet, which is something I assume they may be able to put in. But I feel it's us. We have to make. We can't defer till to the next guys. You know, that's my feeling on it. But I think you might have to make a bad decision now that somebody reverses, but that's not on you that they reverse the decision.
Sure enough.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. 8.3, development variance and temporary commercial and industrial permit, Northwood Kitchens. Got two recommendations there, I guess, one or the other is what we're looking for.
Your worship, it's 8.2.
Geotechnical survey, service extensions and ESA2. Information?
Yes, I look for information.
Okay, second for that, Councilor Krakauer. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, 8.3, development variance and temporary commercial and industrial permit, Northwood Kitchens.
Recommendation number 1 on the floor to start, that council make the final consideration and approve the development variance application submitted by Northwood Kitchen in order to allow for the following variance to the zoning bylaw number 585/2012 as presented.
Second by Councilor Krakauer. Discussion? Councilor Scott.
And I won't be supporting this. I would have been in favor to the alternate, to the recommendation that council only approve the temporary commercial and industrial permit application, which would allow it to continue as is. I want to see consistency, and it's great. This fellow has something that seems to be successful and needs expansion, but I would like, again, to see people investing in the community. And the governance consideration section, I've read that. It hasn't been conducted in our zone before, and I am concerned about us setting precedent and opening up a can of worms.
Thank you. Actually, I'll be supporting this. I read the report and then see that they did send it out to letters and that to the neighboring residents, and there was a few phone calls to staff, and that was it. Nothing came forward in the letters and everything else. So I would hope when this goes through, and it's not, I understand the square footage thing, that's fine, but I believe also in one of our bylaws, we haven't sized them out for a garage, doesn't matter the square footage, I could be wrong the way I read that. But I hope that's something that gets looked at where, you know, if you can build a bigger garage in your lot and you have the space, you should be allowed to. I hope that was something I remember discussing, when Mr. Wall was away and Ms. Torville was running the meeting. Hoping that would be something that we'd be looking at a report on to see if that's something we can change the bylaw on. So, but I'll be supporting the motion.
You know, if we had what you just discussed, I would be against this because I think it should be coming in front of people in the street, the public, to have their input into expanding any garages to be doing this. I was kind of on the fence here, but there wasn't no concerns from the public, and it wasn't going to bother anybody else. So I'm probably going to be for this. But if we're going to look at bylaws to expand all garages, I'm against that, because there's big reasons why those garages are the size they are, and I think if you have a reason like this gentleman does, and nobody has a concern with you doing it, I don't have a problem supporting that. Councilor Sharp.
I know there are people waiting to see how we decide on this, so, like I said, and then the adjacent homes, are they rental properties, are they home owners? So I'm just wondering who lives in the surrounding area.
I really don't think we're setting a precedent when we have public input to whether it can happen or not. That comes out.
To me, it's a one-off, and I agree with you. I think that as this application is in front of us, it's a business. They've gone through all the hoops to get to the point where we are. We say we're about supporting business. This is supporting business. He's trying to get to that next stage in his job, and he may then very well say, you know what, I can make a real go at this and buy a lot out in the heavy industrial park or commercial park and then take it to the next stage. But he has to build in incremental steps, and this is the next step for him. Nobody in the surrounding area has a problem with it. It's about supporting business, and I think we should go for it.
I disagree. It says in our bylaws that there's no industrial in residential areas, and you know, we wanna support business. I see that, but that is just going against our own bylaws. I don't want industrial companies next door to where I live. Why would I start a business out in the industrial park if I could just, you know, have it in my yard? I've got enough room in my yard. It just doesn't make sense. I don't think that we're getting the right input from the community. Maybe the people on the street are used to it. I can't see that there's industrial business there, but then we're just opening it up. You know, I can agree with Councillor Scott, letting them have the variance for 2 years. We've given variances to other businesses that are still past their 2 years and still renting. I think we gotta look at this, but I'd sooner see businesses in the industrial park in downtown.
Anybody else?
And I would as well. I would love to see them out there as well. I just don't think his type of industrial business can take the next step without taking a smaller step. He's a cabinet maker. You know, he uses the exact same, I've been in his shop, I've seen what he has there. He uses the exact same equipment that I use in my garage. It's the exact same thing. He just wants to be able to store a bit more product, to be able to do a little bit more, take it to the next level. And he employs people in Tumbler Ridge, and he's looking to make that next step. I would love to have the magic wand to say, I know you're gonna make $1 million a year at it, go out into the industrial park. We don't know. We're giving them the opportunity to take the next step. And I think that's important. To support business, you have to foster that. Scott.
I am going to draw attention to a Quonset or the coverall that was put out in the commercial park. That was a variance, and that business has now left. I can't remember the time frame, but it was a temporary structure so they could move to that next step, and they've left. And then I know, like, myself included, like, one time you said I don't bring, like, my business if there's struggles in that. We invested in Tumbler Ridge. We've, you know, bought property, we've built a 5-day shop. We're here, and that's what I want to see people doing. You can just come in and, you know, put up temporary structures, work in your garage. We're not going to make that next leap to being a sustainable town. We'll be a resource town.
I voted in support of that Quonset hut, and I'll tell you, if you go to any other town. Count the number of Kiwanis huts, as you call them, temporary, like that one, they're everywhere. It's just a new way of building business. It's a cheaper way of building a building. And they all use it, and that's rentable. We don't have nobody in there right now. It doesn't mean that somebody isn't going to use it, and I think somebody will. Okay, I guess Councilor McCack.
Yeah, I don't think either option hurts them. One is permanent, one's not. 2 years is a long time to see if your business works, and he still gets the ability to expand his garage, which is the main concern because, like I mentioned before, I was in there, and he's got things chalked so high. I think he's got a real good business going, and to be similar to the dentist office, they're not there permanent, although it seems like it because we haven't dealt with it for a long time. That's a 2-year variance. I think it was a 1-year variance, actually. But it's similar to that. It's still there. But at least one is permanent, one's not.
Okay. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation number 2.
That was all. The council make final consideration to approve the temporary commercial and industrial permit application submitted by Northwood Kitchens in order to provide a temporary 2-year variance for the fall.
Okay. Discussion? All in favor?
Question, which recommendation were you just?
The second one.
1 and 2.
And the zoning bylaw and the.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, 8.4, purchasing crown land within the district. Recommendation there?
In the recommendation as well.
Go ahead.
A recommendation that council direct administration to submit the crown land application to purchase the crown parcel E-Plan 31503, which is adjacent to the Saddle Club, and that council direct administration to submit the crown land application to purchase the crown property off the Bull Moose Mine.
Second for that? Scott? Discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, 8.5, travel requests to Ottawa. The recommendation there. Councilor Scott?
The council authorized travel and expenses for Mayor McPherson to attend meetings in Ottawa on an unspecified date prior to October 21st, 2018.
Seconder? Councilor McCack. Just want to say that's to do with the caribou issues, so. Anybody else got anything to say? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Schedule meetings, we want to pick a date for, that we have a special meeting? Unavailable. Councilor Kirby?
I am unavailable the 15th of August till the 26th.
We gotta do it before that anyways. Yeah,
Which, are you talking about a meeting to deal with a delegation?
yeah.
What about the 13th?
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking the wrong meeting.
Just a Monday.
I'd be okay with that.
I'm not sure if morning or afternoon works better for me, but I'm not sure it's gonna be a long meeting.
I'm okay with any time that day.
Yeah.
As well, anytime I can make it available.
What works for 5 o'clock or earlier?
Just on the 13th.
Yeah, next Monday.
Morning preferred.
10 o'clock work for everybody?
8?
We can do 8 too.
8's fine with me.
Okay, 8 o'clock?
Are you okay with that one?
I don't know. I got something on the go. I just gotta see if I can get my work schedule.
Is earlier better? First thing in the morning?
Not really, it's either way. It's a
Okay.
full day job, so
Okay.
I don't know, we'll see. Hopefully.
You've kind of let us know where you stand.
Yeah.
Okay,
Did we determine a time or?
yeah, 8 o'clock.
Okay.
Thank you, Richard. Are we going to also include the museum meeting on this scheduled meetings, or you're just gonna say?
We
I'm just
can
gonna let-
talk about it,
Okay.
what we should do there.
Maybe we should wait for the response that says yes, they want to meet first, and then, something that works for everybody.
Maybe I'll be able to have that. Okay, anything else on the schedule of meetings? Okay. First motion, Act 1, continued funding of the Cumberland Museum Foundation. That's to do with the 3 questions we talked about at AV.
So we just did start discussion on it? Is that-
Yeah, yes, we need a motion to, is that it? That is the motion,
That's the motion,
to accept those 3 questions for the referendum. Did somebody make that motion? Councilor Trump?
I'll make the motion as stated here.
Okay. Seconder? I'll second it. Okay, discussion. Councilor.
Thank you, Worship.
I'm just wondering if putting these questions to the public is, if we're gonna get the right kind of feedback back.
If we're gonna get enough participation, does the public have all the information to make a choice like this?
Or are we just, or is the,
Okay, Barry. If we put this question to the public, is it binding that we follow? That's my question.
No, it's not a binding referendum.
Okay.
It's just trying to get the
Okay.
flow of the residents. Councilor Scott.
That was my question too. I was just wondering what happens if it comes back that they no longer want to fund? Like, where do we go from there?
I'd say it's not a binding referendum. It's just trying to see what the will of the residents is. Councilor McKay, you had something there?
Yeah, and if you don't follow what, if you put a questionnaire like that out, then you don't follow it, well then, you'll probably be burning the doors down, I'm not sure, but it wouldn't go over well, I don't think. But the other thing is we're not jumping the gun here, but we've already talked about maybe having a meeting and going to UBCM, coming back with a proper amount of facts. The government today is far more likely to be funding this than the previous government. They're more into this type of thing, and I think we have a good chance at maybe securing some funding for it, should we ever get all our stuff together amongst the 3 groups and go there and then have a good argument to make for why the BC government should finally be funding this.
Yeah.
And after that, if I'm failing that, then yeah, then by all means.
Well, 2 things. First, Councilor McKay, I thought we were under a timeline to get this out in order to be on the referendum for the election. That's why I thought it had to be dealt with now. Is that not correct? Okay. And the second thing is, the first part in this that says, first option says that continue to fund the Tumbler Ridge Museum Foundation only if they improve their services to be more child tourism and family friendly. I don't know if anybody is opposable to this, but now that we know that it is not illegal for them to show us the financials for the entire organization, why can we not ask for that information as well? That to me should be included and reveal all financials added to it. Is that out of line to ask for that? I just feel that I just want to see it. We're spending $200,000 of taxpayers' money. It's something we've asked for, and I understand they're reluctant to show it. Just get the reasons or the answers from them. Maybe there's a good reason why they don't want to show it. I don't know. But if there isn't a good reason and it is not illegal, we should be able to see that. And if not, we should be asking hard questions why we're not allowed to see it.
Casey.
Thank you. I certainly can't see any reason why we can't ask for whatever information it is we think it is advisable to have relative to the topic at hand. So I don't see any problem with that whatsoever.
Scott, then
Um,
Councilor Pat.
We are getting the financials on an annual basis, though, are we not?
Yeah.
So to me, that was like, we have received the asks, so.
Not, in my mind, it's, we don't fully know where the money goes. So some of the line items, I'd like a breakdown on a little bit better. So for instance, line item, just trying to find it here. Just out of curiosity, how it's broke down, like, what was the first one I looked at? So utilities, for instance, in 2016, the utilities were $18,000. The utilities in 2017 were $32,000. Why the change? You know, like, give me the breakdown on that. Explain to me what happened. Yes, we get to see the numbers, but there's no justification for it. For instance, wages in 2016, $418,000 in wages. We got the same level of service, do we not? In 2016 as we got to 2017, but there's almost $100,000 less in wages in 2017. There's $327,000. Why the difference? I think we should be able to go in depth and ask those questions if we're not comfortable with what we see. My thought is perhaps there's an opportunity in there where you could go in and say, okay, we understand it costs $32,000 for your utilities per year. That is again one of those low-hanging fruit. It's always going to cost $32,000 a year to heat our own building and to put lights in our own building. You know, then we should be able to pop that out right off the get-go and say, here's the $32,000 for that. Year in, year out, going forward. We know what the amount is, but we need the explanation of why one year it's 18, why the next year it's 32. Those are the questions that I want to ask to the members of the board, and they have to bring more information to get answers to those. That's why I want to know more on the financials.
But again, that's something we could put in writing, asking for like the next year to have that breakdown, and then instead of them thinking we're trying to micromanage, just say we want more deal, or we want a detailed description of why there's such a difference. You know, when you pick up on that, because I know the taxpayers do that with us. They look through the SOFI and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, you know, this,
Exactly.
yeah. So there's ways of communicating and asking things without putting people on the defensive.
Fair enough.
I just think, you know, I've been looking at this first question too, and I'm not that happy with it. I don't think we should be laying it out like child terrorism, family friendly. I think it should be something that covers everything, working more with the district to get a better product.
Yes.
Kind of thing. I'm not sure exactly how you'd word that, but because I don't think these are the only things that we're worried about.
No.
So, Councilor McKay, you had something?
Yeah, and I agree with Councillor Casey's comments that whatever we want to ask, I mean, that's got to be subject, I mean, any money, any funds that we give out have to be subject to those being answered. Otherwise, I don't think we would have a deal.
Provided that it's not illegal what we're asking for.
No,
We're told
exactly.
it's not illegal.
Exactly.
Mr. Wall, you had something?
I'll just give an idea. So when you're going out and asking the public, keep in mind that you're not asking the public to come and settle a debate between the district and the museum. What you're asking is the public's opinion on the services that are being provided. So, you know, when you start getting into, you want this specifically and looking for the residents to settle maybe debates or issues you're having with the museum, I think you're going to start going down a path that you'll never be able to capture all of it. I would suggest that the desire to do this, if you do want to do it, and it's up to council, would be to seek their opinion on the services. Do the residents of the Tumbler Ridge want to fund it with a change in service as it's stated here, or some other service that you may decide? Do they want to continue fund it with the same services they have now, they're happy, or do they not want that service? And so that's why the breakdown is here. Do they want to see a change service to this type of service, the same type of service, or no service? So if you keep it in that, it's going to be easier for people to understand. I think if you start getting into more specifics, now you have 2 to 3 part answers in each question, it's going to get more confusing. Now this is your question, you can ask whatever you want. It's my 2 cents on that.
But remember I had the same discussion with you when we did one for the regional district. at that time, I said, I don't like the child tourism, family friendly thing I did, I thought it was getting too specific. And you did change it, but I can't remember how you did that, but it came out pretty good. Remember you had that right in the top line, I said, that shouldn't be there.
I can't recall, your worship, I apologize.
Yeah, I like that right up to this, where it says services. And like, I agree with you. If we have a funding request from the museum, and we've had number one, okay, we just say, we want to see your financials, we want to see it split up like this, this is the way we want to see it. So at that time, we don't do it here.
Okay.
So, yeah, I could live with these questions, but I just, be specific things. Not just the child-friendly thing, and I know that's important. Maybe just services and tourism oriented or something like that. I just think we're getting too direct there. Is this something, I don't know, does anybody have an idea how to word that? Okay.
Well, there's two major funds, as in the regional district, and we fund only specific things. Correct, just the gallery and,
Yeah, just a museum.
yeah, so, I mean, our requests, I think, can only go there.
We're not even discussing the band culture.
Okay, are you talking about the gallery?
Yeah, we're talking just the museum.
Okay, that's where I think that our questioning has to be constricted just to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Councillor Kirby.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree that this wording doesn't really fit because we're trying to tell them how to run, but I think what we want to do is like when we talked about improving tourism and their family friendly, this council didn't just come up with those ideas. Those ideas came from reports and surveys that came from Destination BC, Aldrich Pears. They came in from the tourism industry telling us how we could better tourism plan and keep the tourists coming and coming again for repeat business. So maybe it could be something along the lines of to continue to fund the Tumbler Ridge Museum Foundation and improve their services that fit into the district's tourism plans or something like that. Because it's not us saying we want this, like I know Mr. McCray, Dr. McCray had said that district wants an amusement park. And we don't want an amusement park, we're taking directions from the industry telling us how to improve our product.
Right.
So this is where we're kind of getting the kind of the pushback. So I think if we state it not from council, but it has to go to a plan. So either the council's strategic plan or tourism plan. And then I think moving forward, if we'll get to those points when we have our meetings and figure that out. But when we start listing more child-friendly tourism, family-friendly, that should already be there.
I just thinking, I know the change you made now, that was they conform to the Bruce Wright. Bruce Wright, is it? It's his recommendations after that meeting we had. I don't know how you word that in here, but I know we did on that region district.
You can do it again. I would just, if you're asking the town to make a decision on a specific facilitator's notes, they're not gonna understand. You wanna talk to the residents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My recommendation is talk to the residents about what type of services they wanna see. That's really the only reason to go out and talk to the residents in something like this. What type of services do you wanna see? What do you wanna have? What do you wanna fund? If the questions aren't the way council likes them, I said that we had today's not a drop dead deadline. If council wants to take this over and move it to the special meeting that's gonna happen on the 13th, are we okay with that? So we're okay with that, but we really are getting down to the gun. We have to register this question with Elections BC. It has to be printed on the nominations, and if council wants to delay this till the next meeting, we can accommodate that. As long as, when I say next meeting, the meeting of the 13th.
I would like that myself, because, I don't know, just today it doesn't look proper, the way it's worded. Councillor
I think,
Carl?
yeah, Councillor Scott, up in it.
Thank you. I would be in favor of delaying it to the 13th, because I do think we need to relook at these questions. In reality, number 2, I don't think that's, there was never money issued with no conditions. Like, there still needs to be accountability. So to me, that didn't sit well. And not funding, if that was, I do like the idea Mr. Wallace putting forward, saying what types of services, like we want to have input, but we don't want to put leading questions that are gonna back the council into a corner, especially if you don't follow them. Like if we, cut funding based on public input when they don't know what the consequences are gonna be, like there'd have to be a list of what would happen if we did that. So anyway, I do like the idea, like to me, if you put the types of services people would like to see, we're looking for opinion, and I think that's what it's all about.
And like, I understand where Mr. Wall is coming from as well, for, they're not asking people to make decisions based on stuff that they don't really know. We're just looking for input on service level, right? So, like number 2, I agree with what you said. I never thought of it that way, but if you continue to fund the museum foundation, instead of saying no conditions, string attached, like at the current level of service, so that we continue to give them the amount of money that we give them and don't ask for any change to the service level that is provided at this point, right? Seeing if we were happy with the service level at this point. And then number 1 would have to then change to say, give them the current funding, $200,000, but with specific changes that make exactly what we talked about, child-friendly, family-friendly, that type of stuff. I think to me, that's how they should be maybe staged. Continue the current, I don't know, or not fund at all that's pretty obvious, that one. So, but the consequences, like you alluded to, there's this thing floating around in the media right now that they're talking about that they're concerned that they won't have enough funding, so they're going to pull all the fossils and artifacts and stuff out and move it to some other museum. Is that actually the case? Can they actually do that? Is that something that they are mandated by the BC government that they have to do? And if they are mandated by the BC government, would the BC government have to pay for that? Like, where would they get the funding to do that type of stuff? And if the BC government wants to get in to save the artifacts, why wouldn't they save them right in our town? This is their opportunity for the BC government to step up and pay for the housing of the artifacts. That's what we're trying to do, right?
I think that happened, this is off subject, but
Take care of the stuff, so they didn't have to go.
Councillor Schuck.
I was just thinking again, I think that was somebody that's so passionate about what they've been doing, and they've invested so much time in it, that they were speaking kind of in the heat of the moment, and I'm pretty sure that they want to retract that comment, because it has caused a huge.
There's a follow-up letter on that, wasn't it? Is that public? So there's a follow-up letter where that person said what said, basically. That's the way I read it.
Oh, okay,
The
I
follow-up
haven't seen
letter.
that one,
Yeah.
I've seen another one from,
There's a follow-up letter sent to the PRRD
okay.
to say, we would move the artifacts because we can't take the chance of them getting damaged or whatever. So if we don't have the funding, we have to move. So they're standing by what they said. That's the way I understand it. So. But it's like, talk about consequences, can that actually happen? I don't know. I wouldn't like to see the damage, but.
Do you have enough information there to come back with something maybe a little different from each question?
I do. I think the motion is on the floor. Yes. So council should defeat it and forward this to the next meeting. I'll work based on what I hear to put a couple more things together, but council, you should work in having specific, like write down your specific thoughts and specific wording that you want to have on here, because I know I said it last time, but this 13th, that's it. It's either going forward or it's gonna die.
Okay. So I'll call a question on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Needed. Tunbridge Public Library.
Do we need a motion to bring this forward for the August 13th meeting?
Sure.
Okay, I'll make a motion to revise the referendum questions and bring them forward on August 13th at the special meeting of council.
Seconder? All in favor? Two, Tunbridge Public Library.
For the district of Tunbridge, increase the Tunbridge Public Library's budget by 3,000 to compensate for the increase to minimum wage.
Seconder, Councilor Scott. Discussion on it? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Log installation report.
Like then a report we produced on the cost of installing a matching log next to the visitor information center to create a signpost based around the artwork produced by Joel Zimmer for inclusion in the 2019 budget considerations.
Seconder, Scott. Discussion? Councilor Trevor.
So, I mean, this has been something that was from the previous council. This artwork was hired out, done, or taken off the other signpost. Was an artist was hired, was done, it's been left. I know this resident and this artist has been to me a couple times in the last month or two, so that's why I bring this motion. Because I thought we talked about it a while ago, and I believe it was supposed to be a report coming back, kind of looking at locations. I'm just putting this out there. Consider it in the 2019 budget. That way, this lady's artwork that she's done an amazing job on can be posted up to the public.
Yeah. Oh, you made a motion? Yeah, so second. You already got a second? Okay, Councilor McKay, you got a second?
No, if it needed a second, I would.
Okay, all in favor? Roman walkway tree replacement.
This would be a motion that a new tree be purchased and installed at the Roman walkway to replace the current one, and instructions be sought from an arborist to help ensure a successful plan.
Okay. Discussion.
So again, I actually was talking with Mr. Wall because I think it was at the beginning of the year I actually contacted Mr. Wall because you could start seeing the tree red, and I thought maybe it was dry. But just so everybody's aware, I mean, the reason I asked for an arborist to be contacted is my understanding, I mean, I see it from my own eyes, that this tree laid on the ground for 2 weeks at the public works yard before being installed. So, and maybe it needs to be, but that's why we're asking, that's why I'm asking that staff contact these people to make sure that we're doing it the right way. Just so hopefully we get the convenience. It's only been a year. It's already, that's why.
I just gotta say, it was tree experts that put the ones in over by the housing project there. I think half of them are dead already, and the other ones don't look that healthy. So I think it's kind of a gamble in a way, but I gotta do something with it. That's for sure. And
Need something done,
we
great.
put a little tiny one in. I won't be there around to see it grow up. So. Anything else there? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councilor's business. Anybody got anything to share here?
I just got a couple things. I'd like to thank Mr. Wall and his staff in regards to the decorating of the float. Hats off to whoever the decorators are. They did a really good job. And want to thank Rui for being on part of that float there, helping throw candy, and Mary McPherson for being the sidekick there in his beautiful hat. I think the parade was well organized too, from your group as well, so thank them as well for that. I did attend Grizzfest, and I'm going to actually speak just a little bit to the, we were invited down to have a, can't remember the wording there. Tour, thank you, tour. And hats off to the organization, all their board, very well organized tour. I think some of us got a little bit more to see what goes on back there. some of the stuff this organization's bought with grant money as well, so hats off to that group and thank you for doing it. That's all I got.
Just to add to that, I was impressed by the amount that has been put into it. I never thought the trailers and that were a big surprise to me. Back there. So, thank you for the tour. Anything else? Councilor Kirby?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Attended the Geopark AGM. They had a outstanding turnout. 23 residents put their names forward for the board. So we was 4 returning directors along with Dr. Helm and Teresa Tonneson from the Museum Foundation. So that should also 2 new ones, Jane Butters and Logan Toynbee. And Tara Campbell. So there's some new people on the board, and I think having the museum and some museum directors and Geopark directors working together, that should hopefully work to the benefit of both organizations. Of course, volunteered on the Grizzfest grounds this weekend. Very amazed that I have a voice come the next day, because usually I can't speak for a week. It went really well. We had a really good turnout. Even though we had, usually it could be weather, but this year it was just other events. We had a canoe golf tournament on the Saturday and Alabama at the Encana on the Sunday. So, and there's always something, but I think, once again, it was a big success. I look forward to, hopefully the board puts it on again for 2019.
Councilor?
So I have 3 things I'd like to bring up this evening. The first one is a year and a half ago, I think we asked staff to produce a letter for us to send to parks or recreation or whatever it is in the government regarding the boat launch and facilities at Gwillem Lake. I think that was sent to them and they said they were going to include something in their budget. It's the exact same that it used to be, if not worse now. The actual Falmouth boat launch, like where we had to fix ours for getting boats in at the Murray River boat launch, theirs is all deteriorating, falling apart, and their dock is again falling in. I was out there over the weekend, and there were, let me get this right, 48 vehicles, and 30 some odd that had boat trailers on them at Gwillem Lake. By contrast, I drove by the Murray River boat launch, 64 vehicles at the Murray River boat launch. We are getting a lot of tourism in town for boating and recreation of that sort. I think the Gwillem Lake thing should be revisited again. I think that it would be good if this council could reiterate that letter, send it out again to try to get it on this budget for them to fix for next summer. And I don't know how y'all feel about that, but I'd like to put that motion on the floor this evening and ask that we just follow up on the letter and send a follow-up. Listen, you said you were going to do something about it, nothing happened. Can we please look at doing something with the Gwillem Lake launch? So I'd like to put that motion on the table.
I gotta say, I went out there Sunday. They're parked right to the bridge.
Yeah.
It's there. It was, you should have got a picture of that. Just sent along with the letter. Never did. But I agree fully with it. That's great.
Thank you, Worship. Also, I think the Bear Hole boat launch there could be looked at too. I mean, if we're gonna go on tourism in our area, we should cover all that needs to be covered.
Moose was real busy too.
Oh, they're all busy.
Yeah, so I think we should hit one at a time though. I think Gwillem is the big one.
Is that something we can do at UECM? Just bring it up too?
Yeah.
Right there you have the time there, you get the right minister there, maybe mention it too, not just a letter, but you bring face to face. Something goes out there next week, grab a couple pictures, especially when you see that, even at the river, you get 64 boats or trailers or vehicles. We've got pictures to take with us.
Sure.
I was just thinking too that we should include all of them and not just attack one at a time, because when they start doing work in an area, sometimes like they may look at encompass this whole whole, like the provincial park, there hasn't been a lot of work done. It was a resource sector doing most of it. And I know on Bear Hole right now, there is active logging out there and they are upgrading because the road was in dire need of it. So it might not be as bad, but they're fixing and patching a few of the really bad holes and soft spots. So if we put everything on there and include it all, I think that would be the way to go.
And my take is follow up on the letter that we previously sent.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't want to add to it, and I don't know exactly what the wording was in it right now. I just know that Willem was specifically talked about. We talked about winter access into the park in the same letter, and that was going to be addressed, which I don't think was addressed either. I think that was locked for the winter again. So that's something that needs to be followed up on. And you know, if we wanted to make a motion to continue with the other ones, I'm not opposed to that either. But I think just if we follow this one up, follow it through, and we're not changing the game. We're not putting the goalposts at a different spot. We asked you to do this. You said you would. You haven't done it. It's just to me, just stick with the one thing. That's for now. I'd love to see them all done, but I think it's better to start with one. Hopefully get something.
Thank you, Worship. Also, we had talks with councillors from Chetwynd that have the same concerns over Gwillem on this, and it might be good to see if we could set up a meeting with both of our communities going on the same topic, and then they'd also talked about looking at putting you know, cabins, etc. But I mean, for that issue, definitely we should look into going in with Chetwynd.
I'll make a suggestion that we draft a letter talking about, CC it to, Chetwynd and ask them to support that.
Yeah.
Can I amend the motion and add that to it? Okay.
Any other discussion on it?
What's the motion?
Are we also going to talk to ministers at UBCM regarding? Okay.
All in favor? Did you want to make a motion to send a letter talking about tourism around here, that all these campsites are getting totally used and they're in rough shape?
So I'll put the motion forward to meet with the ministers regarding the surroundings, the Gwillem Lake, roads and Bear Hole.
Did you want to talk to them at UBCM and then follow up with a letter maybe?
Sure,
That'd be
certainly, yes.
Your Worship, I just wanted to inform you that the topics that you have right now to discuss with the ministry that you need to talk to, which is going to be Flinro, is the caribou issue and fossils. You know, the meetings are only 15 minutes if you add another topic in there, which just the deadline's passed. We can see if they'll be willing to talk about it. But with the 15-minute meeting, you've got the caribou issue, which is going to be a pretty extensive conversation, fossil protection. So just be aware that anything you add beyond that is going to limit the amount of time you have to speak on those other two issues.
So those other two are much more important. Okay.
Go ahead.
And just one last thing, so I had a few people comment to me over the past couple of weekends about the condition of the golf course clubhouse. So I don't know how that's dealt with in our budget or whatever, but I thought that at the beginning of the season it was in need of some repairs. And I'm just wondering, is there any plan to do any repairs to the golf course building itself? So there's some issues with fascia that's falling off, some downspouts, catch basin, eaves troughs, and there were some other ongoing issues that they had down there. It's mostly outside aesthetics of the building. I'm not sure about the inside of the building so much, but the outside there are some issues there that should be addressed before we run into water issues. So just something I wanted to throw out there that, you know, I don't know how we deal with that or if there's a budget for it. But.
So we have a budget for the golf course. We do know that there's some external issues that need to be addressed. We've been taking with that clubhouse a bit of a deal with the biggest issues as we go along and as we have time. Our budget simply doesn't allow us to bring in anybody outside right now to get the work done, so it needs to be done in-house. We're trying to find the time to do that. I think as we go into next year's budget, we're going to need a more significant investment into repairing that building. Next year with the new council, that's going to be one of the main topics, is fixing all of our buildings and making sure that they don't further deteriorate. So the golf course clubhouse needs work, and we're aware, we're aware of that. Town hall needs work, and we're aware that the fire hall and the public works building as well.
Okay.
Hey, everything, I've got one thing, it's a contract issue that, councilors wanted me to take to, closed. We, go to council on it. This is, again, a new closed meeting.
I'll make a motion that we go into a close regarding to 90A and 90C.
Second. Councilor Katie? All in favor? So,